don't know about you, but I have a pretty love-hate relationship with goal setting and resolutions. My success rate the past few years has been pretty terrible. But I've realized I've been going about it entirely wrong, and maybe you have too. It's really more of an art than a science. And just like in art, if we focus on improving our technique, then we can increase our success rate while also setting goals that are meaningful and have lasting change on our lives. In this video, I want to start by talking about some of the technical errors or mistakes we make year after year, which I'm all too familiar with. And from there, talking about the actual technique to setting and achieving impactful goals, which I'll break into the internal and the external. The stats are a little all over the place here, but generally speaking, from 100 Americans, about 50 will set New Year's resolutions or goals, and of that 50, 4 will actually follow through with them. And there's a few reasons why this number is so low. When it comes to setting goals and resolutions for the new year, we tend to be pretty surface level with them. Don't really put too much thought into why we're actually setting them in the first place. I mean, it's pretty easy to go on Google and just pick out a number from one of those lists you see everywhere. But when we do that, they become more of a nice to have rather than a need to have. And I feel like I probably speak for all of us here when I say that if there's something that we don't need to do, we're pretty good at not doing it. When our goals are surface level, it's pretty easy to overdo it and set way too many, because why not, right? Just throw a bunch at a piece of paper and just sort of see what sticks after 12 months. And not to mention, it just feels good to check a box, right? When we focus on checking boxes, we become more focused on the outcome, which can only get you so far. It's sort of like you're standing at the bottom of a mountain and just looking up every single time. When you do that, it's pretty easy to get discouraged and lose motivation. Before we move on, I'd pause and let you know I've set up a Notion template that you can download and fill out as we go through the technique to the art of setting and achieving impactful goals. If you haven't used Notion before, it's great. It's free. It's an awesome tool to organize your life, really. And if you found this video or you find the template useful at all, I'd greatly appreciate it if you'd hit subscribe or leave a like. As Henry David Thoreau famously said, if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. As we've talked about, setting surface level goals and resolutions is sort of like planting a tree sapling. It's a lot easier, relatively speaking, to pull the sapling out of the ground because the soil around it is still loose, because the roots just aren't that deep. So if we can root our goals and resolutions as deep and as widespread as we possibly can, then it becomes a lot harder to try and uproot them. Sort of like you're trying to pull a fully grown oak tree out of the ground. So to start, ask yourself, what does my dream life look like? What are you doing from the time you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed at night, right? What sort of, food spots are you going to? Are you going for walks? What sort of projects are you working on? Everything you can possibly imagine. From there, think about what sort of identity goes with that dream life, right? Your identity being what makes you uniquely you. All of your memories, experiences, relationships, and so on. Are you seeking connection through meaningful conversation? Explore yourself and the world through adventures? Whatever it may be, what kind of person are you in this dream life? The most important part of your identity is your values. What truly matters to you in life? Freedom, health, relationships, money, whatever it may be, it's super important to get really clear on what these are, because ultimately they guide your decision making day in and day out. And if you've noticed, we started as deep as we possibly can and have been slowly working our way back up towards the surface, the external. To best introduce the external part of the technique, I want to introduce a word that you may or may not have heard of before: Kyudo. Kyudo is the Japanese martial art of archery, which, you might not expect this, is actually not about hitting the goal or target. In fact, there's no difference at all if you hit it or not. What's more important is the process of aiming. Everything that goes into the technique before you even shoot the arrow. Your posture, your composure. And when you focus on the process instead of actually hitting the target or goal, then there is no right or wrong. Every shot, missed or not, is an opportunity to learn and move forward. So while we may not be shooting bows and arrows all the time, we can still apply the same mentality to our own goals and resolutions. If we fall in love with the process of practicing our technique, our daily habits and behaviors, then getting to the top of a mountain or those faraway goals 11, 12 months from now becomes a lot less daunting and way more manageable. Another crucial part of Kyudo is the reflection that takes place after each shot, right? Hit or miss. If you take the time to consistently reflect on where you are, not only will you be able to make those marginal adjustments to make sure you're going in the right direction, but you'll also be continually reminded of those deep internal roots you planted way back when. Your why. If you do all of that, right? If you set deep internal roots, you fall in love with the process of practicing your technique day in, day out for an entire year, I have no doubt in my mind you'll be able to achieve your goals, make lasting change, and just have an all-around awesome year. By the way, one last thing I'll leave you with. You could be good today, but you chose tomorrow. You don't need to wait until the new year, your birthday, or whenever to start pursuing your dreams, to set goals and resolutions for yourself. And I know it can be beneficial to have a blank slate to work off of, but the truth is, your new year, your blank slate starts when you want it to. When you decide, when you make that commitment, when you sign that contract with yourself to start taking ownership and accountability for the trajectory of your life. All that to say, don't look back 10, 11, 12 months from now and regret what you could have done, the person you could have become, the life you could have lived.